Yo, what's up everybody? This is Megadork, aka Barack the Magic Sea Cow, and I'm bringing y'all some Godz gameplay as promised in my last Nuclear Throne video. So for those of you that don't know, I feel like not many people know about this game, not enough at least. So Godz is this interesting little indie game that was published by Vlambeer, the amazing company that is making Nuclear Throne, which is amazing. And so what they did is, a few years back, there was this guy on Kickstarter, forgot his name, I know his name was Brian of some sort. He was starting up a website called Venus Patrol, which I still don't necessarily get the idea behind the website. And Venus Patrol, what it was it was basically a website. It was a journalistic website talking about what the future of gaming should be. And the future of indie gaming will be the topic that I discuss in this video. But first of all, let me finish explaining this. So, anyway, Vlambeer decided they would play their part, and in addition to, I believe, donating some money towards Venus Patrol, the website's development, they also decided that they would make a game that at the time was exclusively playable on Venus Patrol, the website, and as such, what they did was they made this game, and Vlambeer did something really interesting with this, and it took me, the thing that's interesting about this game, the story is very, oh look at that, that's embarrassing. The story of this game is extremely simple, and it's extremely weird, but on the part of the player, it's extremely hard to find out just what it is. Like, from first glance, you think one of two things. Either A, this is Wolfenstein 3D except in the future rather than the past, or B, because it was actually meant to look like Wolfenstein 3D, just to have that sort of classic look, I believe. And, so what happened was, so most players would probably see this as, like, either Wolfenstein 3D from the future, or breaking out of an alien prison, which is, with the exception of killing Hitler, it's basically the same thing anyway. Whatever, that's what most people think. What this game is, story-wise, this is just insane. So, this is in some alternate reality dimension that is kind of post-apocalyptic, I believe, but like that's completely out of the focus of this game, as is in focus in Nuclear Throne. In this game, it's sort of post-apocalyptic, but there's like this new breed of society, and oh yeah, so part of this game was actually inspired by one of the lead developers at Vlambeer. Actually, I believe they said he was held up at knife point in some super ghetto area, and that inspired this game. You might ask, what? How does that inspire this game? This is actually a sort of science fiction-y interpretation of what sort of ghetto gang life is, which is, I mean, not actually, that would be a really stupid thing to say, but long story short, what this game is a world where famous rappers are literally gods, and they often weld guns into the exact same extent that in like many modern gangster rap songs you would actually like imagine hearing the you would like actually hear the them talking about like, yeah, bang bang, shoot 'em up, and like they made this awesome soundtrack to go along with this game. Like, I hope y'all can hear this. It's awesome. But so yeah, so in a world where rappers are literally gun gods, there's this one guy who's basically just, you know, fighting for competition against this guy who's like a famous rapper and who's super egotistic, and from what I can deduce, he's basically Kanye West, and he's actually that guy, the Illuminati guy, who's my favorite character in Nuclear Throne, Young Venus. He's the antagonist, he's like the Kanye West of this game. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. I really like this game. It's so simple, but it's so unique at the same time. Anyway, now that that synopsis is over, just because I feel like that was interesting and I should share it with y'all, So the topic that I was planning on discussing right now is what exactly the, maybe not so much what the future of indie gaming is, but what exactly is indie gaming and why is it so special? So, I remember many years back, my very first computer that I got, I believe in 2003, it was obviously a pretty crap computer. For the time it was still pretty crap, but it actually, you know, at the time it worked. Now I think I'd be lucky if I even managed to turn it on. It was so broken. But some of the only games that would actually run on this game were some of those really random indie games on Steam that most people have never even heard of. So I was getting a few of them, and most of them were decent, not great. Some of them were amazing, but like Audio Surf, I got when not many people had heard of it. Hipster, and I was really enjoying it. Whatever. And then my friend was like making fun of me incessantly, and I still don't necessarily understand this, but he was like, "Oh, look at this! This is an awesome boss battle, by the way." Just to go on another tangent, I love the music that they have for the boss battle in this game. It got stuck in my head all day today. So anyway, he was like, "Ha! You're such a hipster! You only play indie games!" And I'm just like, I mean, I guess I can't argue with that, but yeah. So I was just like, what is indie game? What is an indie game anyway? So the definition of indie game is initially pretty straightforward, but the implications of its definition are actually pretty significant if you think about it. And I'm here to elaborate on that. So what an indie game is a privately developed game by a select few people. This is opposed to a AAA title, which is created by a large group of people in a company that have the idea of the project as like the game as an actual project, as a goal, which is pretty much the same way for indie games, but it's different. For indie game developers, it's a small team with something specific in mind. Now, a lot of this information I'm getting came from watching Indie Game the movie, from, like, you know, Edmund McMullen and the crew of that group. It was a pretty interesting movie. Y'all should really check it out if you haven't seen it. Anyway, so the one thing about indie games that is really truly special in contrast to AAA titles is that, so no, I don't mean to bash on AAA titles. Like, it's going to sound a lot like that throughout this video, but the thing is, these like, I mean, Valve is a AAA company. Like, they're a huge company, and still they're amazing. Gearbox, most of their games aren't that great, which is ironic because they make Borderlands, but they're a AAA company and they're awesome. There are a few more exceptions, but the thing is, what they see. Okay, so back on track. The really special thing about indie gaming is that it is the people that develop it. Basically, this sounds really cliche, but they have a dream. They have a goal in mind of not making a finished product that they profit off of, but to actually make a game and that people enjoy. Now, AAA companies, of course, they want people to enjoy the game, or else they wouldn't get their sales, of course. And, of course, also indie games need to get funded, so, of course, they're also going to want sales. But the difference is, so people that are AAA game developers are, they're part of a huge team. What they do hardly actually benefits the whole game. And, yeah, so the real struggle about it is, I don't think I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, so anyway, the thing about AAA titles is that in the end, they're trying to push out a project by a certain deadline that consumers will be entertained by, and the like. So consumers will buy it, consumers will like it, because then they'll review it, and then more people will come by it. The difference is, for for most indie game developers, the real reward in the end of actually making a successful game is the thought that they made a game. So as opposed to AAA game developers, indie game developers, they make a game because they want to make a video game. And that impacts a lot as far as the actual game content. For obvious reasons, of course. Oh, look at this, I just get completely crapped on here. But, so, the thing is, alright, so let's put it this way, a recent example that, so let's say a recent example, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, made by Sledgehammer, so they're obviously a massive AAA company, they have a ton of people, and even if it were a good game, let's put it this way, so let's say, I forgot his name, but let's say somebody were talking to me and he revealed to me, oh hey, I'm one of the members of Vlambeer, or I'm one of the members of, I guess Mojang, I kind of fell out of the Minecraft group a while ago, but, or like, I was a member of the cast of like, pretty much any popular indie game, then like I'd be like, what? Really? That's so cool! Give me your autograph! Because this game that I might have known and loved, like, these developers actually had an influence on the game. But for a game like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, or any Call of Duties for that matter, or any AAA title for the most part, I remember seeing somewhere, there are people that work on that game that are made, well, not made, obviously, you don't make people, but like their job positions were created with the intention of animating the walking animation properly. There are people that work in these companies that have the intention of, I guess soundtrack design is pretty important. There are people that have the intention of basically, you know, just generally the really I don't know what just happened. I'm hoping that my microphone is still recording because it just cut off for a second. Alright, yeah, Windows is still reading it. So, okay, good. Anyway, as I was saying, this sounds really cliche, but so there's so many things you can compare this to. For some reason, like, I just got a huge craving for cake, so I'm going to use the baked goods example. Let's say we've got Entenmann's, and we've got some small locally owned bakery. Entenmann's, if you're somebody working at the processing plant for Entenmann's, you might be like, oh, I joined Entenmann's because it's kind of cool, and I, you know, I like baking, but, you know, you might work with them, but if you are working at this little bakery and A, the quality of your baked goods is almost inevitably going to be better, it's going to be fresher, and, it's going to... Sorry, this sounds like such a stupid comparison, but I think it is valid. So, what happens is, the people that are working at this bakery are baking because they like it, most of the time, if it's one of these small, privately owned bakeries. They're baking because they like it, and they're baking it because they want to see little kids come in and buy one of their little, like, Grover-shaped cupcakes, and I want to see these kids go like, oh my god, thank you, this tasted so good, and like that's actually important to these people. Similarly, let's say, now I can't make assumptions as far as how egotistical the people that are part of this company are, but let's say you were to go up to a lead developer of Call of Duty and go like, oh, Call of Duty was so good, I loved it. I can't believe I just used that example, it's terrible. But let's just say that was the case. And so you could say that and they might be like, oh, I mean, thanks, I'm glad you liked it. But like, and I mean, they might be complimented. It's something that definitely warrants a thank you. They're not going to be obnoxious. I have faith in the fact that most game developers aren't complete assholes. But the thing is, if you were to, I'm assuming, if you were to go up to, say, one of the developers at Vlambeer, one of the developers for any really good indie game company, and genuinely, like, wholeheartedly say, yo, your game is amazing. I've logged like 70 hours into Nuclear Throne. It's so amazing. I've had so much fun in this. Like, they might still just say like, oh, you know, thanks. But like, it would actually be significant. Like, the work that is put into these games by like most indie game developers, they actually care. And again, I'm going to reiterate what I said. A good game is a good game. A great game is a great game. A crap game is a crap game. And that actually goes up to my next point in a second. So like, I'll enjoy a game that is good regardless of what kind of company made it. Like, of course, I'm not like that. I'm not completely nuts. But, so, let's see what I'm trying to say here. So, most indie games, they have a better margin for what they are, and especially in this year, 2015, a lot of these big game companies are running out of ideas. So, let's see. Fast-paced military shooter, boom, Call of Duty's got that. Slow-paced military shooter, boom, companies like, or games like Arma, or maybe the Battlefield series, depending on how fast or slow-paced you consider that, or they already took care of it. The standard science fiction game. Most games coming from, as far as consoles go, most games coming from Bungie have taken care of that, and Valve is also taking care of most science fiction concepts. And just think about it, like, I'm not going to say everything, but like, 90% of all original ideas that are seen by corporations as what the consumer mass would eat up, they're done. So like, what you can see is, for example, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, what I keep saying. So, you know, like, oh, we're going to innovate on it by making it look futuristic. But in reality, the core gameplay mechanics are the exact same thing, which is a bad thing for the most part. And look at this little secret area I discovered by seeing that. It's crazy. But anyway, so, I mean, yeah, the difference is with indie games, the developers very often are making it with the intention of doing something interesting, and they actually have leeway to be creative and be unique, etc. And so this goes back to the point that I was saying before. Now, indie developers are also not always like perfect. So I was just watching a video the other day, and I was browsing Steam, and I saw this game called The Slaughtering Grounds, and I was like, I mean, in concept this looks unoriginal, but maybe cool. It looks bad, but you know, for $5 it could be worth looking into. 90% of the reviews said it was terrible, they were bad reviews, and the other 10% out of them, like maybe 8% of those, were sarcastic people that posted a positive review saying, oh, I accomplished more on the toilet than I ever have in this game, 10 out of 10. Like, just, you know, stupid stuff like that. And maybe like 2% of them were actually like, oh, I kind of like this game, it has potential. And keep in mind, the word potential is pretty overused in those actual positive reviews. Like, they don't actually think highly of it. And, oh, this is insane. Okay, so, I'm gonna finish up here. So, The Slaughtering Grounds, it ended up being one of the worst games ever made. They copy and pasted Google image searches as the graphics for their game. Their music was terrible, the graphics were horrible, everything was horrible, and worse yet, this is what I was getting at. Boom! Young Venus is dead. And, so Jim Sterling, this famous reviewer on YouTube, or commentator or whatever, he reviewed it, and there was this whole big scandal. I'll probably put a link in the description to this video. It was crazy. There's this whole big scandal where, like, the one or two indie developers that created the Slaughtering Grounds were, like, they were personally insulted by people hating this game. They were like, oh, y'all are idiots for not liking this game. So long story short, because this video is almost over, so I don't keep rambling, one of the less fortunate differences between indie games and AAA titles is that even though it can go one way or another, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, whatever, it can go either way. But for indie games, the margin or the threshold for how personally the developers take criticism is very much changed. And so let's say there's bad criticism. Let's say it's constructive but not really constructive. It's somebody being an asshole about something that they don't like about the game. They say that's a good indie game developer, they'll be like, oh well, I'm sorry, we might fix it, or we'll try to fix it, and they'll actually take it as constructive criticism. A AAA developer of a big video game, 99.9% chance they're just going to flat out ignore the complaint, which sucks. But it's better than a bad indie development team, such as what made Imminent Uprising, the game I was just talking about, Slaughtering Grounds. What I was saying, the margin for how people take it personally. If an indie developer gets bad criticism, and they tend to take things very personally, and they're bad developers, they will get insulted. They will act as if you as the consumer or the reviewer or the critiquer actually, like, there's something wrong with you because you don't like their game. And what these bad indie development agencies, what they don't seem to understand is that if they're selling a game for money, they are selling a product. And if people spend money on your product and they hate it, they have every right to talk about how much they hate it. They have every right to talk about how bad it is. They could be lying, but they probably aren't, if it's that much in concentration. So that's the big downside. Long story short, what do I think is going to happen with indie gaming? Honestly, I think people are going to be idiotic sheep to the AAA companies and keep buying the Call of Duty garbage and everything. But regardless, I think that in the future there's going to be a lot more indie games than... a lot more successful indie games than successful AAA games. Because honestly, in this new age, the indie games are the ones that are actually fun, and actually unique, and actually good. So, that is what I generally think. I think that these indie games are like, really just... there's a bigger margin for the developers to take things personally, but there's also a bigger margin for how much care and quality they're actually going to put into the game. Either way, this is the credits screen, and I'm praying my microphone is turned on for all this. This is probably the longest commentary I've ever made. So, yeah, this was actually, as you can see, this was a full playthrough of Godz, which is impressive to me. So, this has been Barack the Magic Seiko, aka Megadork, and I am signing out. Peace! Watch no one at the lock in the one, yeah. I don't wanna go out, I will lie, yeah. One thing I wanna watch you, yeah.